In the heart of chaos, where the buzzing menace of insectoid aliens intertwined with the creeping dread of xenomorphs, there stood a ramshackle refuge known as the Last Bastion. It was a patchwork of metal scraps and defunct machinery, all woven together by the tenacity of its residents. The atmosphere was alive with the sounds of clattering tools, muffled laughter, and the occasional shriek as someone stumbled into a wall, mostly due to Buzzy, the small, hyperactive insectoid pet that Sam had mistakenly adopted. Sam was a scavenger with a penchant for sarcasm, often making light of the absurdity around him. With a mop of unruly hair and an eternal 5 o'clock shadow, he navigated this post-apocalyptic landscape with a sense of humor that was both refreshing and bizarre. "If I'm going to die," he often quipped, "I'd rather it be while telling a terrible joke than facing one of those freaks head-on." Today, however, was special. Sam had decided to put his wits to the test. Training Buzzy, he figured, would be a fantastic way to increase their survival odds while providing some much-needed entertainment. After all, what could go wrong with a brainy insectoid pet capable of spitting acid? A lot, as it turned out. In the main hall of the Last Bastion, the survivors gathered for their weekly Insect Fest, a tradition started by grumpy old man Bob, who believed that sharing the worst insect-related horror stories would fortify their spirits against the encroaching alien threats. Bob, with his grizzled beard and an expression that suggested he had seen too much of the universe's ugliness, was the unofficial historian of the refuge. "You see," he often said, "we need to remember what we've lost, or the bugs win." Sam decided that this would be the perfect stage for his grand demonstration. With a flourish that could only be described as both theatrical and overly dramatic, he introduced Buzzy. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the future of our defense, a creature so agile, so intelligent, it can dodge xenomorphs and perhaps even help us find dinner." The crowd chuckled, as they always did, while Lucy, the no-nonsense engineer with a talent for fixing everything from solar panels to Buzzy's unfortunate glitches, rolled her eyes. "Just don't let it get too close to the food supplies, Sam. We still need to eat something that isn't covered in slime." With that, Sam set Buzzy loose in the makeshift arena. The little creature buzzed around, darting this way and that, its compound eyes reflecting the flickering lights overhead. It was amusing to watch, until it zoomed directly into the giant pot of mystery stew Bob had prepared. Chaos ensued. Buzzy emerged, covered in a thick layer of green sludge, which instantly started to bubble ominously. "Oops!" Sam exclaimed, his laughter ringing out, but it quickly turned to panic as Buzzy let out a high-pitched screech and unleashed a volley of acidic spit that melted the pot into a heap of molten metal. The survivors scrambled in every direction, their laughter mingling with shouts of alarm as the stew sizzled on the ground. "Not quite the battle plan I had in mind," Sam shouted, diving to dodge a stream of melting metal. The panic, however, was short-lived. Laughter erupted from the crowd, as Buzzy, now a gloppy mass of green goo and cheer, flitted from person to person, seemingly unbothered by the chaos it had caused. This was just another day in the Last Bastion, a bizarre blend of fear and humor that had become their way of life, but as the laughter died down, the atmosphere shifted. A hushed conversation began in the corners of the room. Rumors had spread that xenomorphs were mobilizing for a significant attack, and the inhabitants of the refuge needed to prepare. Bob, his voice gravelly and serious, began to weave tales of the impending doom, which only added to the growing tension. "They're coming for us, and we need to be ready. This isn't just another skirmish, it's a full-scale invasion." Sam felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He had managed to evade trouble with his quick tongue and absurd antics for too long. Maybe it was time to step up. Or, at least, That's what he told himself as he grabbed a half-eaten ration bar and made his way to Lucy. "Hey, Lucy, any chance you have a spare laser gun lying around?" he asked, half joking. Lucy, busy tinkering with a damaged generator, looked up, eyebrows raised. "You're serious, aren't you?" "Not at all," Sam grinned. "But if we could rig up something that spits out stew like Buzzy, I think we'd be set for the invasion." "Very funny, Sam," she replied dryly, but a hint of a smile tugged at her lips. "You know, if we survive this, we could start a cooking show. Cooking with Buzzy, where ingredients meet their doom." Their banter was interrupted by a sudden, urgent shout from outside. "They're coming!" The voice belonged to Jason, a scout who had been watching the perimeter. The tension in the air thickened like molasses. "All right, everyone," Bob shouted, rallying the crowd. "We need to fortify the defenses. Gather whatever you can find, lasers, metal scraps, anything." Sam felt the adrenaline surge as people began to mobilize. He had always been a bystander, but this felt different. There was a strange excitement mingled with fear. "Okay, Sam," he muttered to himself. "Time to be the hero you never wanted to be." As he stepped outside, the remnants of laughter still echoing in his ears, he looked out over the rugged landscape surrounding the last bastion. The sky was a bruised purple, hinting at the chaos to come. He could see the flickering silhouettes of xenomorphs in the distance, their movements sharp and predatory. "Maybe I should have just kept Buzzy as a pet," he whispered, the humor lost in the gravity of the situation. Yet, as he turned back to the refuge, determination ignited within him. They would face this threat together, armed with their makeshift weapons, wild stories, and perhaps a bit of that unexpected humor that had always defined their survival. And so, the stage was set. A battle loomed, one that would determine the fate of the last bastion. But first, they needed a plan, one that would either lead them to victory or make for a fantastic story to tell in the aftermath. As the alarmed shouts echoed through the last bastion, Sam rallied alongside Lucy and the others. A sense of camaraderie washed over the group as they scrambled to fortify their home against the impending threat. The makeshift barricades, consisting of metal scraps and salvaged equipment, began to take shape, but it was clear that their defenses would be tested soon. "Sam!" Lucy shouted, her hands covered in grease as she worked on reinforcing one of the barricades. "Get those old solar panels over here. We can use them to create a makeshift laser trap." "On it," Sam replied, sprinting toward the storage area, heart racing with both fear and excitement. As he rummaged through the jumbled mess of supplies, he couldn't shake the absurdity of their situation. Who would have thought that one day he'd be building defenses against alien invaders while cracking jokes about insect cooking shows? With the solar panels stacked precariously on his arms, he made his way back. "I hope this isn't a one-way trip," he joked, nearly dropping the panels as he tripped over a loose piece of debris. Laughter erupted around him, a welcome distraction from the tension, and he felt the knot in his stomach loosen just a little. As they assembled the solar panels, Bob barked orders, directing everyone with a surprising authority for someone who typically spent his days spinning conspiracy theories. "We need to get those panels angled just right. If we can catch them off guard, we might just make it." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the refuge, Sam felt a surge of purpose. The absurdity of their plight, a group of misfits banding together to fend off two terrifying alien species, was oddly comforting. He stole a glance at Buzzy, who was perched atop a nearby crate, still dripping with goo but buzzing with an unsettling energy. "You ready for this, buddy?" Sam asked, and Buzzy responded with an enthusiastic chirp, which somehow made Sam feel a little braver. with their defenses bolstered, the team gathered to discuss their strategy. "We need to lure the Xenomorphs in," Lucy explained, her eyes glinting with determination. "If we can create a distraction, we can hit them with everything we've got." "Buzzy can help by what? Spitting acid at them?" Sam interjected, a grin spreading across his face. "I mean, I'm all for creative tactics, but that sounds a little too easy." Bob shot him a glare. "Don't underestimate the power of surprise, Sam. If you've got a wild idea, now's the time to share it." Sam rubbed his chin, considering the possibilities. "How about we set up a decoy? Something flashy to draw them in while we ambush from the sides." "Like a disco ball?" Lucy asked, raising an eyebrow. "Exactly. A disco ball," Sam exclaimed, now caught up in the enthusiasm. "Something shiny to catch their attention. We could rig it with explosives." The group exchanged skeptical looks, but a few chuckled at the absurdity of it. "If we can find a way to make it flashy enough, it just might work," Lucy said, smirking. "And it'd give me a reason to dance if we survive." With a new sense of purpose, they set about gathering materials for their shiny distraction. The atmosphere shifted, the dread of battle mingling with the adrenaline of creation. They rummaged through their supplies, collecting scrap metal, old electronics, and a few remnants of past party decorations that had somehow survived the chaos. As they worked, Sam found himself surprisingly optimistic. He'd always been the jokester, the one to lighten the mood, but now he felt a sense of responsibility toward the others. They were all in this together, and it was his job to keep spirits high, even if that meant rigging up a disco ball that could potentially explode. When the decoy was finally completed, it was a ridiculous sight, a glimmering sphere of mismatched materials that reflected the last rays of sunlight. It was absurd, and yet there was a charm to it. "If this doesn't distract them, I don't know what will," Sam said, grinning as he admired their handiwork. The time had come. The sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky a deep shade of indigo, and an eerie stillness settled over the last bastion. The tension was palpable as everyone took their positions, waiting for the inevitable assault. Sam's heart raced, the gravity of the moment pressing down on him. "Remember," Bob called out, his voice steady despite the tension. "Stick to the plan. When the Xenomorphs move in, we hit them hard and fast." As they crouched behind the barricades, Sam couldn't help but steal a glance at Buzzy, who was twitching with nervous energy. "You ready to shine, little guy?" he whispered. The insectoid creature buzzed in response, and Sam took it as a good sign. Moments later, a chilling sound echoed through the night, the guttural growls of Xenomorphs, a sound that sent shivers down Sam's spine. The figures began to emerge from the shadows, sleek and menacing, their eyes glinting like shards of glass. His heart pounded in his chest as he gripped his makeshift weapon tightly, ready for the chaos to unfold. "Now!" Bob shouted, and Sam could hardly believe it when Lucy triggered the decoy. The disco ball sprang to life, spinning wildly and casting colorful lights across the landscape. The Xenomorphs paused, their predatory instincts caught off guard by the unexpected spectacle. "Buzzy, now's your time!" Sam yelled, and Buzzy zipped into action, darting toward the nearest Xenomorph. The little creature unleashed a stream of acid, but instead of hitting its target, it splattered all over the disco ball, causing it to glow even brighter. The Xenomorphs hesitated, bewildered by the sudden onslaught of color and light. It was surreal. This ridiculous plan was actually working. For a brief moment, laughter and disbelief mingled in the air, transforming their fear into a shared exhilaration. "Now!" Lucy shouted again, and with that, they sprang from their hiding spots, launching an attack on the distracted xenomorphs. Makeshift weapons whirled and chaos erupted. Sam found himself in the thick of it, dodging and weaving, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He caught sight of Lucy, wielding a salvaged laser gun with fierce determination. "You've got this," Sam cheered, and she shot a blast toward one of the approaching xenomorphs, hitting it squarely in the side. It let out a screech, spinning around to face her, momentarily stunned. Just then, another xenomorph lunged at Sam, its jaws snapping dangerously close. He ducked just in time, the creature's breath hot against his neck. "I really should have thought this through," he yelled, his heart racing as he scrambled to find his footing. "Sam, behind you!" Lucy shouted. With a surge of instinct, he spun around and swung his weapon, an old metal rod, hitting the xenomorph squarely in the face. It recoiled, and Sam couldn't help but let out a nervous laugh. "Guess I'm not as useless as I thought," he called out, buoyed by the adrenaline. The battle raged on, a chaotic dance of desperation and determination. Buzzy buzzed in and out, providing a surprising edge with its acid, and soon the survivors found themselves gaining ground. But just as victory seemed within reach, a larger xenomorph, a towering creature with glistening black scales, emerged from the shadows. It let out a bone-chilling roar, and Sam's heart sank. "Oh great, they sent in the heavy artillery," he muttered, bracing himself for what came next. "Stick together," Bob yelled, rallying the others. "We can't let it split us up." As the giant xenomorph charged, Sam felt the weight of the moment settle on him. This was it. He had to do something bold, something that would turn the tide. Summoning every ounce of courage, he shouted, "Follow me," and darted toward the creature, clutching Buzzy close. The others hesitated, but Lucy quickly fell in step beside him. "You've lost it," she laughed, though there was a flicker of admiration in her eyes. "Just trust me," Sam yelled, his voice steadying as the adrenaline surged. They raced toward the larger xenomorph, and as it lunged, Sam and Lucy ducked and rolled to the side, causing it to crash into the barricade they had built. "Now, Buzzy," Sam shouted, holding the little creature up. "Show it what you've got." Buzzy responded enthusiastically, launching a stream of acid right into the creature's face. It shrieked in pain, staggering back and giving the survivors a moment to regroup. "Let's finish this," Lucy called, and with renewed vigor, they attacked as a unified front. The giant xenomorph was formidable, but it was clear that the bizarre combination of their tactics, the humor, the absurdity, and the sheer unpredictability of their approach, was throwing it off balance. As the battle intensified, Sam felt a strange sense of exhilaration. This wasn't just survival, it was an adventure. With each swing of his makeshift weapon and each burst of laughter amidst the chaos, he realized how deeply he had come to care for his fellow survivors. They were a ragtag family, fighting for each other and for their home. Finally, with one last push, they managed to drive the giant xenomorph back. As it staggered away, the survivors roared in triumph. Buzzy buzzed around them, proud and energetic. "That was insane." Sam laughed, breathless from the fight. "I can't believe we actually pulled that off." Lucy grinned, panting heavily. "Maybe we should start a dance party after this, just to celebrate." But just as they began to catch their breath, a low rumble echoed in the distance. The ground trembled, and the atmosphere shifted again. Sam's heart dropped. What now? From the shadows, a new wave of xenomorphs emerged, but this time, they were not alone. Behind them came a swarm of the insectoid aliens, their buzzing forming a chilling chorus as they descended upon the last bastion. "Everybody back to the barricades," Bob shouted, fear creeping into his voice. Not again. Sam yelled, adrenaline surging once more. They had fought hard, but now they faced a greater threat than ever before. We need a new plan, and fast. As the horde approached, he glanced at Lucy, who was already pulling together ideas. We have to find a way to make them fight each other. We can't take them both on. Sam nodded, heart racing. If Buzzy can communicate with the insectoids, maybe we can use that to our advantage. Great idea, Lucy replied, her eyes sparkling with determination. Let's do it. They quickly regrouped, formulating a plan that relied on their most unpredictable ally, Buzzy. As the xenomorphs and insectoids collided, Sam took a deep breath. The next few moments would define their fight for survival. Buzzy, he called out, the little creature buzzing anxiously at his feet. We need you to help us negotiate a truce. Can you communicate with them? With an encouraging buzz, Buzzy took flight, darting between the two alien factions. Sam and the others watched, half hopeful, half terrified, as the little creature flitted back and forth. Come on, little buddy. Sam urged, willing Buzzy to work its magic. In a breathtaking moment, Buzzy began to emit a series of high-pitched chirps and flashes of color, creating a stunning display that captured the attention of both xenomorphs and insectoids alike. The two factions halted, seemingly entranced by the spectacle. Now! Lucy shouted, and the survivors seized the opportunity. They charged into the fray, using the chaos to their advantage, pushing back the xenomorphs and insectoids as Buzzy continued to act as their unexpected mediator. Let's show them what we're made of. Sam yelled, rallying the troops. With Buzzy at the helm, they managed to redirect the energy of both species into a battle of wits rather than weapons. What followed was a surreal tableau of miscommunication and misguided attacks. The xenomorphs, momentarily confused, began to clash with the insectoids, their natural instincts overriding their initial focus on the refuge. Laughter bubbled up among the survivors, even as they fought, just like Insect Fest, but with fewer horror stories. Sam shouted, dodging a stray blow from an insectoid. The confusion escalated, with both factions engaged in a chaotic scuffle. Sam could hardly believe it as he watched the absurdity unfold. The insectoids, with their buzzing wings and sharp pincers, flailed against the xenomorphs, creating a cacophony of sound that echoed throughout the night. In that moment, something shifted. Amidst the chaos, Sam realized they had inadvertently forged a strange alliance, not just among themselves but with the very forces they had feared. They were all caught in a web of circumstance, and through their ridiculous attempts at survival, they had found a way to unite against a common enemy. As the dust began to settle, the battle gave way to an uneasy truce. Both alien factions hesitated, confused and disoriented by the unexpected twist of events. Buzzy flew higher, the bright flashes of color a beacon of hope amid the chaos. Now's our chance. Bob shouted. We need to take advantage of this moment. With a collective breath, Sam and the survivors launched their final assault. They surged forward, armed with renewed confidence in the bizarre camaraderie that had carried them through the fight. Together, they pushed the xenomorphs and insectoids back, forcing them to retreat into the shadows. As the last of the alien forces disappeared, the survivors erupted in cheers. Sam couldn't help but laugh, his heart swelling with relief and joy. We actually did it. We survived. Thanks to a flying disco ball and a very special bug. Lucy added, grinning at Buzzy, who was buzzing victoriously around them. Bob, panting but smiling, looked at the group. I'll be damned. Maybe we're not just surviving after all. Maybe we're thriving. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over the last bastion, Sam felt a surge of hope. The refuge, once merely a place of survival, had transformed into something more, a community built on humor, resilience, and the unlikeliest of alliances, and amidst the laughter, the absurdity of their situation settled in. The survivors had faced their fears, battled alien foes, and emerged victorious, not just as individuals, but as a family. Who would have thought we'd have a disco party to celebrate our victory? Sam chuckled, shaking his head in disbelief. Lucy laughed, her eyes sparkling. Well, you know what they say, when life gives you aliens, throw a party. As the dawn light illuminated their home, the survivors knew one thing for certain: they would face whatever came next together, united by the bonds forged in laughter and chaos. In that moment, Sam realized that survival wasn't just about staying alive, it was about living fully, embracing the ridiculousness of their lives, and finding joy amid the absurdity. And as long as they had each other, and a little help from Buzzy, they could face anything the universe threw their way. And so, the last bastion stood firm, a beacon of hope and hilarity in the borderlands, where the chaos of two alien worlds collided, and laughter rang out against the backdrop of the stars.